Hi everyone, Perez of Branding for the People here, and I want to welcome you to my next interview with a friend, a colleague, client, a multi-layered relationship that I have with Afrin Khan of Red Elephant. I'm super excited about this particular interview because it's been about 4 years since we first started our relationship together. Actually, our relationship actually goes beyond that, but it's been over a little over 4 years when we started doing some work together in the context of being entrepreneurs and small business owners. So just a brief overview, and I'll bring on Afrin, and we're going to have a lively discussion about sort of where she's at now and what she's doing with her company. Also learn from her about sort of the branding process and some of the decisions that we made together in helping her to launch and define and create her brand. So Afrin is an expert in live events and speaking to profit. Afrin and her team at Red Elephant help entrepreneurs connect, convert, and cash in from the stage. So you're in for a treat. So Afrin, welcome.
Thank you, Reed. It's a pleasure being here. I'm excited for talking about branding and my process of using branding with Red Elephant. It's been an amazing journey, and I'm so excited to contribute.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. Now, it's interesting because what I'm going to share with the listeners today is going to be quite interesting because a lot of entrepreneurs are starting out. They're at that stage where they're trying to figure out what should their brand be. And you were just one of those entrepreneurs that obviously after a few conversations that I had with you, you're just one of those entrepreneurs that said, you know what, if we're going to build this business, then we're going to do it right. And we're going to create a brand from the get-go, right? So
Yes.
let's just kind of go right in there because I think it would be helpful for the listeners. Let's talk about before you decided to, well, actually, what were you doing before you started to launch Red Elephant?
So right before I was launching Red Elephant, I was actually home on maternity leave, and I decided that I wanted to go back to work. I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do, but I always had this gnawing idea at the back of my head to start my own business. So I started the conversation with my family and even with you, saying that I would like to start my own business. And the thing that I was most interested in is being a wedding planner. I've been doing it for years for my friends as a hobby, and I wanted to turn that into a business. So when I came to you about branding, there's an idea of being a wedding planner, but also serving other markets like businesses and entrepreneurs. So it was basically an events planning company that would focus on weddings, but would serve any type of event that was needed.
Cool. Awesome. And then actually this might be useful because a lot of people come to me and trying to figure out what the name of their company should be. So why did you decide to name the company Red Elephant?
I get that question a lot. So I wanted to create a name that people could connect with. I have a marketing background, and using that marketing background, I knew that the company was not about me. It was about being able to create something that people could remember, that people could connect with. And I just had a brainstorming session with a group of people, and we started just throwing out different names. And something that resonated with me was elephant, because in our culture, in the South Asian culture, elephants are considered good luck, and it represents so many different things. It represents wealth, it represents prosperity, it represents good luck when it comes to weddings and marriages. So I really felt like that image was so powerful, and it also just made sense that people seem to love elephants. And it wasn't just going to be called Elephant Events, so we started to look at what would bridge the name so that it would stand out a little bit. And we chose the color red. We love red. If some people may or may not know this, but in the South Asian culture, women, when they get married, they wear the color red, not white, on their wedding day. And I just felt like it translates into business as well. It's considered a power color, in my opinion. So I really felt like the word red and the word elephant really became something that would be memorable for somebody who first met us, and that is how we came up with the name Red Elephant.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. So what's great is to when naming a company, it's always good if there's a great story behind it or if there's a great reason for making certain decisions with the name. It just helps to have a great, if anything, a great conversation. right, with someone who hears about your company. And even more importantly, if it ties into what your business is all about, even more so, right? I mean, there's so many personalities, that attributes that you just mentioned in terms of, good luck and wealth and representing power and prosperity. And so that was definitely a great starting point that you had your name. Now, let me ask you a question, because in the very early stages, you were clear of at least you wanted to be in the event planning business. Now, it has evolved a lot over the past 4 years in terms of the focus areas, as any business should, right? But at least
Right.
you knew that you were in the event industry. um, let's take this on the journey. I know we like to share it, but mostly as from a teaching point. But what was your understanding of branding that company, Red Elephant, prior to the conversations we had, and ultimately, eventually working together, which we'll talk a little bit more about that process. But what was your understanding of how to go about branding Red Elephant?
Sure. So prior to the branding process, my understanding of it was from my marketing background, right? I studied marketing in school, and what I understood it's a combination of things. So branding to me at that time was not one single thing like a logo or a business card or a website. All of those pieces are important, but it was the collection of those things coming together and really being able to communicate to your audience, your ideal audience, so that it would resonate to start or spark a conversation or create interest or engagement. So that was my understanding, which I thought was advanced when I came to you. I was like, I know branding is more than a logo, and I felt very proud knowing that. But I realized, afterwards in the branding process, there was a whole new window of branding that I was not even exposed to, and I thought that was so valuable. But that was my experience before coming into working with you.
And that's smart. I would say that you're not alone, and that there's a lot of people like you who really have mastery or a deep understanding of marketing and really see branding as more than just a logo. And then there's like this whole other layer that's kind of in your unknown, if you will. Maybe share with them sort of why did you decide what was the factors that influenced your decision to go through a branding process with us?
Yeah. And as you mentioned before, I jumped into branding very early on to my business. And I just want to highlight that because I think a lot of times people think about building your business linearly, thinking about building clients first and then, hiring a coach or hiring a website. And I kind of break the rules when it comes to that. It's worked well for us. So, from my point of view, I jumped into branding right away because I saw that if I wanted to be a big player in the industry, if I was going to compete against the best, which is what I wanted to do, I needed to position my company more than just myself networking face-to-face, one-on-one, and people not knowing who I was. I thought that if I created a brand that had a presence and would get known even when I wasn't there, that would really position us in the market a particular way, and it would create interest with the big players, and that's exactly what happened with us. So my real decision-making factor was thinking about the future of the company, not about where I stood there, not what was in my bank account, not what was happening with my clients yet. We were just starting out. I didn't have a lot of social proof about what we could do, but I knew what we were capable of, and I wanted to create a brand inside of that vision.
Awesome. And then so we went through that process, and I know that part of our conversation was like, okay, you know what, I'm with you in terms of your big vision for your business. Now let's brand that. Let's do some of the deeper work. Why don't you describe sort of what that process was like for you? What were some of the things that might have been revealed? Obviously having an advanced understanding of branding and understanding of marketing. What are some of the ahas or the things that were revealed going through that process? So it's kind of a two-part question. What was the process like, or what things opened up for you?
Sure. So I think the biggest thing that opened up for me was getting clarity about how I would be positioned in the market, because one of the things that I realized right away, and you actually brought this to my attention when you were kind of challenging me about why would somebody pick Red Elephant over the other event planners, and I really started to look at what did set us apart, because you were mentioning, you and your team said if you Google event planners, it's I don't remember, it was like a million hits come up, right? There's so many different event planners. So what is going to be the reason that somebody chooses Red Elephant over the competition? And through this mapping exercise that you did with us, we really started to look at, well, where are our competitors? What space are they in? Who do they serve? And
Right.
inside of that, we saw this giant gap that needed to be filled. And it actually was the gap that I wanted to serve, which is really the startup entrepreneur group where people are looking to do events. They were using their VAs or, maybe a family member to run their events. And they really needed strategy, but they didn't maybe have enough of a budget to invest in an outside company. So
Mm-hmm.
we really targeted that group in the beginning of our first year and a half, and it really paid off for us. We were able to return on our investment because of that clear strategy that you gave us in branding, and it really allowed us to explore a brand that fit in that position. And then the visual identity and the other pieces that came with it, like the different layers that came with that. That strategy session was able to help us really create packages and offerings that was exactly what people needed in that market. I would say
Awesome.
spot of mind clarity was the biggest thing I got.
Awesome. And that's great because, when you're clear on who you are and what your brand is and what it's not, it makes it easier for you to be able to walk into any environment and be able to present yourself in a particular way. And it gives a level of confidence,
Absolutely.
right, when talking with prospects. So let's talk about the visual identity process. Now, this is probably a term that may not have been in your awareness or might not be in a lot of people's awareness. I mean, that's how I like to call it, as opposed to just more than a logo. But why did you decide to go with creating more of a visual identity than coming up with a logo?
Sure. Well, I think it comes back to a conversation I had with you as well. You asked me earlier about the naming of the business, and that's something that, I came up with in a brainstorming session. But I did come to you with a couple of different ideas about what our company name should be. And the one that stood out to you was Red Elephant. And there was something inside of that conversation that sparked me, because if you, the branding expert, is saying that Red Elephant it has a lot of power because of the color and because of the visual, I really saw that there would be some magic that could be created beyond just creating a logo on a business card. It was kind of the conversation that led me to believe that there would be an experience that people would feel just by looking at the logo or the visual identity, and that is what happened. So it's interesting for me to talk about it because there's the before the logo ever existed, and then there's what happened after.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of sharing on both sides. Where right now people always come up to me and they're always saying, "Oh, I saw your logo. You're the Red Elephant lady." And there's so much fanfare around it, which is exactly why I invested the time and the strategy with you is to create those moments so that people come up to me and they have those conversations. So I think, going back to your question about, why creating the visual identity and what to explore, I really wanted to create multiple layers. And I don't know a better way to say that, but, sometimes I see logos and it's just like, okay, that's cute, right? But then there's a logo that creates this umbrella of inquiry and fun and inspiration, and that's what I was going for when I wanted to create our business. Because when you come and think about it with live events, that's similar, right? It's an inquiry. It's something that you need to have a conversation with, and
Sure.
I felt like there was a parallel with that. So
I love that. And that's actually the perfect word to use in my mind is the multiple layers, the multi-layers, because I view brand as sort of multi-sensory and multi-layered, and sure, if you want a logo, you can absolutely get a logo today, this afternoon, if you want to, right? But I think what you were wanting and what my vision and sort of my willingness to want to kind of go down this journey with you and why it's exciting to work with entrepreneurs like you is because you wanted to create an experience and you wanted to create those moments where people sort of connect with you or, like you mentioned, create that fanfare. And that's so far more useful in not only building momentum, but just sort of carrying through that to the tipping point where it's, your business takes a whole new life on its own. And I would say, just to kind of echo what you said, sorry if I cut you off, but just to echo what you said, I get a lot of times, we obviously showcase our clients on our website and in our presentations, but a lot of people compliment and comment on how much they just love your brand and your visual identity. And of course, it's reinforced with once they interact with you, once they get to know you. But there's already this emotional connection to
Yes.
who you are and what you're about. So that wasn't really a question, but so then it was just a comment. Like, you're right, it does create a whole new experience. So now, then, what other layers? Talk to me. So obviously, we're talking about, you have a team of event planners and consultants, etc. But talked about some of the layers that maybe people don't think about that
Sure.
helps to inform.
Well, one of the things that comes to mind is that when going through the branding process, the other layer that I didn't expect is that once we launched our visual identity and it was out there for people, what started to happen is that people really thought we were this, major corporation, that we were running a team of, 50 people, or, because I would talk to people, and when I said, oh, we have a team of 5 people, to me that was impressive, but for them, they're like, oh, I thought you were much bigger than that, given your visual identity or logo, whatever term they used. And what that made me realize is that the expectation that came with the visual identity was one of, a game-changing brand, and something that people expected, this high functioning organization, and it forced us to up level the way that we do our business. So our visual identity helped us pull us through things that I thought we would be doing in 3 to 5 years. We needed to accomplish in 6 months, because we needed to meet the expectations of our customers. And that was a blessing in disguise, because we started, like I said, 3 years ago. And for us to go from first year to second year to third year, we needed to up level the way that we did our website. We needed to up level the way that we do our client proposal. So it had us look at all of our systems and all of our processes, because we wanted to meet the expectations of our customers. It couldn't be, me just working from my basement and going to networking events. I needed to really represent the brand. And we up level the way that we dress, right? And at events, right? We have our signature style that we have, and in terms of our signage. And I feel like, that process, again, is invaluable, because we're considered one of the major players in the event planning industry because of the way that we show up as a brand.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's so true. You're right. Having all those different touch points, from the websites to the proposals. I loved this comment. And I think I would say that there's a handful of entrepreneurs that might get it in the reverse direction. They think that you have to first build or eventually graduate to the ideal brand that you want to be, and so that then therefore you can attract sort of the higher end clients, or then you can sort of be perceived as a key player. And what's interesting about your approach is that you said, or you made the creative intention, and you made the decision that you wanted to be a big player in the field, and you needed a brand to reflect that. But exactly. What's more interesting is that it pulled you into action, right? It kind of almost forced you to kind of live up to that which you're communicating to the outside world. And, you obviously start with where you're at, but if you're creating a perception in the marketplace and people have a high level expectation or standard or perception of who you are, then you have to deliver, because one of two things can happen, right? You can either not fulfill on that perception that you've created, and you can permanently damage and hurt your reputation and your brand. Right. The other thing is you can actually just reinforce and add to that which you've already created, that it just reinforces people's decision to want to work with you. Exactly. So tell us about some of the results that has happened. Now, I'm big on results, and you and I can... Let's talk about some of the results that could be tangible, or they can be intangible, or a combination of the two.
Okay, cool. So I also like results numbers wise. So in our first year, we crossed 6 figures, which was huge for us, because we also, some of you may know this of us, but we went through Hurricane Sandy, and we were displaced for 3 months, and really had to figure out what we were doing in our business. But we were able to still monetize and cross 6 figures in our first year, which was a goal of ours. So that was a huge celebration. In our second year, we crossed $500,000. And this is our third year, and we're poised to cross 7 figures. So I say that that's a huge win. It defies a lot of the odds that you read in statistics about businesses and things like that. So I would say that that's an amazing celebration, and branding definitely contributed to the results of being able to reach those goals. So that's
Awesome.
one thing.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're still celebrating over here. So some other results is that we got to partner with, again, the major players in the industry. So when I first started the Red Elephant, I was actually at a business event. It's one of the first events that I attended like this, and some of you may have attended it, Be the Change event. And it's the first time I came in contact with Suzanne Evans and Sage Event Management, who produced that event. And I thought, I'm like, one day I'm going to be, on that stage with Suzanne, and one day Sage Event Management will know who Red Elephant is, and, we really understand who we are. And at that time, I was just a body in the room of 800 people. And within 3 years, right, we were able to accomplish partnering with Sage Event Management and Suzanne Evans multiple times in delivering event services. Our specialty is really one-day events. We also do 3-day events, and so we were able to really create joint venture partnerships with Barry and her team, which is such an extraordinary opportunity for us. And then just getting, that backing with Suzanne has been tremendous. So being able to, to see that vision that I want to be a major player, we created a brand that was communicating that, and then to actually live those results has been an awesome success for us.
That's awesome. Well, and it's continuing to evolve
Absolutely.
and develop, and you're taking the business. Actually, so just on that note, what would be sort of the next phase for your business, right? So have you thought through some of the things?
Well, it's exciting because we didn't see this when we sat down with you when we started the business, and this is what's fun. But what we started to see, the next phase is Red Elephant doing its own event. So we've been behind the scenes supporting entrepreneurs, being seen, being heard, and then cashing in from the stage, making multiple six-figure paydays, and we love that. And we started to realize that we also have a message to share in front of the room, that there's something beyond being behind the scenes that we wanted to communicate and connect with our own audience. So we've been hiring and we've been training our staff to support our entrepreneurs so that we can still serve them in the way that they need us to. But now we're also serving this entirely new market of people who want to learn and be educated about speaking and the power of live events. So we're starting to do our own 3-day events, and we're starting to get in front of the stage in terms of sponsorships and tour stops. So really, the next stage of Red Elephant is, I would say, 2-prong, where we're behind the scenes, we're doing what we love, we're getting entrepreneurs up on stage and having them cash in, and at the same time, we're also getting in front of the stage and we're communicating our message and our stand for people to be seen. So that's really exciting for us.
That's awesome. And what I love about that too is I'm a huge advocate of practicing what you preach, right? So not just doing events for people, but you're also hosting and modeling that which you're teaching and that which you're providing a service for. So it's interesting sometimes to see other branders or branding agencies who don't go through their own branding process.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're always really busy and good at branding other people. Sometimes we kind of take a back seat. But as the visionary, as the CEO of a company, and both you and I sort of share this, is that you kind of have to allow your team to be able to do certain things so that you can then carry forth and do that which you're preaching, right?
Exactly.
So, okay, good. Anything else?
No, I think that, just to reiterate that piece, we didn't realize the value in not just being able to speak so that we can connect with our own tribe, but it's refining our own process. We're actually walking through what our clients go through. So it just really helped us, again, just, evolve our brand. And I think that's something, that I always tell our clients. And, I think people, we did a rebranding with you after we switched over from weddings to doing events for entrepreneurs only. We came back to you and we looked at it again. And so I just always like to emphasize that it's always a process. It's always evolving. And inside of the game of mastering, right? Mastering being a business owner, mastering what it is you do, always looking for new opportunities to step into so that you can always be expanding and expanding and expanding. So
Great point. Well said. A brand, I always say that brand is a lifestyle. It's not a one-time thing. And you're right, it evolves over time. And sometimes you do need to sort of get a checkup or a check-in or a refresh, right?
Yeah.
So now I just want to sort of package it in a way because while it's absolutely awesome to kind of hear your story and people can kind of get inspired by sort of what you've created over the past few years in a very short period of time by taking the leap of faith and going through a branding process. But for people who are thinking about going through the branding process or people who might want to let me just get a logo or maybe one day I'll do branding, how would you package it in terms of advice or tips or things to know to help one decide whether or not they should go through the branding process? Do you have any tips to maybe share or offer?
Yeah, I would say the first thing I would say is don't wait, because I think some people think, it's like when I get there and you fill in the blank, right? So when I get to this amount of money, or when I get to this amount of clients, or when I really figure out what I'm doing, then I will invest. And my bottom line is don't wait. Just lean into it, jump into the process of branding, because I did it. I'm the poster child for somebody who did not wait. I was a wedding planner. I was a little bit of a hot mess when I started, right? Because I wanted to do fundraisers and, corporate events, and, just being able to go through that process and bringing in the knowledge of understanding the market and how to position, that in itself is gold for you to build your business. That in itself will create results that you know how to message yourself when you do elevator pitches, when you do a speaking engagement. Knowing how to position yourself as a brand is hugely valuable, even beyond, I would say, the stepping stone to creating the visual identity. So that's the first part that I would say is just don't wait for it, jump into it. The other thing I would say is that, it is a process, right? It's not just something like you submit a questionnaire to read and then he spits out a logo, right? It is a process. It is a dialogue. And what I want to say, it's kind of two-part advice about this, is first, trust the expert, right? I came into it thinking I knew marketing, I knew what I wanted, and really just being able to provide Reed and his team the data, the information about what it is you're looking for, and then allowing Reed to kind of create beyond what you see. There's a reason why, your brand is what it is before you meet Reed, because it's from your limited perception of what you understand. And then being able to match that with an expert and having Reed and his team, just be able to create the magic. I just say surrender to him and his team in this process, because they're the ones that really understand how to take it beyond what you see. And I just think that's the next advice, is trusting the expert. And the last thing I would say is really just being able to enjoy the process. I don't think that there's many of us in the world, right, that are entrepreneurs, right? There's a small percentage of us who take the risk, that become entrepreneurs because we see something possible for ourselves in terms of a brand or an offer or a product. Yeah. And if you're taking that leadership role and you're carrying this torch for the solution, then you should enjoy the process of creating something that's going to be remembered, right? Your brand will be remembered by a community, by people around you. So you're really taking on something that I think is inspirational. And for you to stress over like any part of the process, I think you'll miss out on the experience of what it is to actually create a game-changing, a life-changing brand. So that's my last piece of advice.
I think those are all great points, and I couldn't have said it better. Obviously it's for don't wait, because all we have is now, right? Like lean into it, go for it, play big, right? It's a process. You're right. I can't stress enough what. Just kind of echoing what Afrin is recommending from a client perspective, right? Is it's a creative process, and it will unfold. It'll create new layers. The things that you're creating, sort of, we may not have solidified it during our initial strategy, but it created a foundation to be able to allow that to unfold. And so it is a process. And then I love this last piece of it, which is enjoy the process, because if you're not enjoying it, why bother? But you can certainly enjoy it. It's a fun process. It's not really scary, and it can occur like that way. But if you really lean into it and you trust sort of the experts, then go for enjoying the process as well. So I love that. So I'm sure this is obviously, thank you for this, Afrin. And now actually one last quick question, and maybe it's just a tip or two, but how does one decide who's the right branding expert for them. Like it may not be our agency, it may not be me, whether it's time constraints or, it's what have you, or maybe they're in another part of the world, although we do have clients all over the world. But how does one decide who's the right branding agency or brand consultant for me?
Sure. Well, I think we touched on the word a couple of times, but I think the first thing is connection. Seeing if there's somebody that can connect with what your idea is, and from there that you see that there's a commitment behind there. When I talked to you, Ree, first before I hired you, there was a lot of ideas you brought to the table that I didn't see before, and I really thought that you would forward my vision beyond what I can do by myself.
Okay.
So I would say the first thing is connection, and the second thing that I would see is just seeing other work. I think that branding is something that you need to look at social proof to see is the other brands that have been created, is that something that appeals to you? Do you get inspired when you look at the portfolio of the person that created those brands, or are you not sure? Is there like a raised concern? Because when I look at your portfolio, it's all the brands look to me are inspiring, and you nail it each time. And I think that other times when I look at other people, not just branding, I'm just going to say in general, when we look to hire somebody, if I look at their work, sometimes, if there's a concern that I have, I get hesitant, in being able to invest, because you want to make sure that you make the right decisions. So I would just make sure that, that you work with somebody where you're 100% clear that that's the right choice based on the information that you gather. Yeah. Maybe it requires, talking to somebody that worked for them and getting their experience of it as well.
I love that, which kind of reinforces my point. At the end of the day, we buy from people and companies and products that we trust, like, and respect, and that we connect with, right? So obviously you got to connect with the person, right? Because you're entrusting in him or her to be able to help you build your brand. And then the second thing that you mentioned, which is awesome, is that looking at their work. Now, whether it's their portfolio or their social proof or whatnot, but obviously you want to trust, like, and respect and connect with the person, and you also want to make sure that the branding agency or consultant can deliver, and they have some credibility in an area to be able to help you carry forward your vision. So I love those tips and advice. So thank you, Afrin.
You're welcome.
Obviously we could talk all day, and I know you're, managing lots of events all over the nation. So I want to appreciate your time. If someone wanted to learn a little bit more about Red Elephant and what you and your team are doing for entrepreneurs and small businesses, where should we send them to?
Our website is the best place to start. So you can go to redelephant.com, and that you can find out more stories about us. There's also a free downloadable planner. So if you want to get started, we have the 5 Ps on how to produce live event profit you can check out, and you can contact us from there.
Awesome. So there you have it. So it's redelephant.com. You can check out all of their work and their stories, and there's a free download of the 5 Ps, to profit.
Live event profit. Yep.
Yep. And if you wish to contact Red Elephant and learn more about their team, all of their information is on their website as well. So that being said, I want to thank you. Now, do me a favor. You're listening on this, and again, our whole intention with these interviews is to kind of get another perspective, is to kind of shed some light on, if you're thinking about going through the branding process, if you're unsure where to start, or if it can impact your business, share your comment below and let us know what this has provided for you, or what tips or what nuggets or what actions you're going to take as a result of this interview with Afrin. And hopefully it was of great value for you. I appreciate you listening on the entire interview, and most importantly, I also appreciate Afrin for your time to share your story and what you're doing in the world. So always inspiring to be in your company. And thank you, Afrin.
Thank you, Ree. It was a pleasure being here.
Awesome. Well, that being said, we'll look forward to our next interview. In the meantime, please share your comments below, and we look forward to seeing you on the next interview. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.